Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you, as always, keto without the crazy. I am standing up today. I usually record my videos seated, but I want to show you some things, and I just figured it would be easier to do that if I'm standing up and I can just more easily have them on camera. And please know, I am a non-tech savvy one-woman operation, so I'm just standing in front of the wall. I do have a ring light, but I figured I could spend the next 3 hours messing around, trying to get the lighting right, trying to get everything right, or I could just record my video and get it done. So that's what we're going with. So let's see, where do I start? I'm going to share with you some tips that I share with a lot of my clients and a lot of the people in the groups that I coach that typically makes keto much, much easier. You know, I'm all about helping you do this more simply and easily. And in fact, before I forget, I recently updated all my channel playlists. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you click on the playlist tab, there's a whole bunch of playlists that I just updated. And there's one that's called something like Make Keto Simpler and Easier or Simple and Easy. That's the playlist you want to go through if you are looking for tips like actual actionable strategies and a lot of mindset stuff for uncrazifying your keto. So, okay, today I want to talk about food prep. And I specifically said food prep and not meal prep. The phrase meal prep, like I can't even think about it without cringing. I'm literally like shuddering right now. I hate the phrase meal prep, you know, and it's fine if you prefer to think of it as meal prep and you've got 86 little, segmented containers and you've got your salmon and your broccoli and your cheese and it's, great. But in the interest of keeping this really simple and uncomplicated, let's think more about food prep. Because if you think of meal prep, you're thinking, well, now I need a recipe and I'm going to triple it so I have enough for the week and I got to have this much of this and this much of that. I much prefer to talk to people about preparing massive quantities of food ahead of time. And I realize this is all semantics, food prep, meal prep, whatever, but you'll see what I'm talking about when I get to the details in a minute. The reason I encourage this so much with people is if you're not having any trouble with keto, if you're getting the results you want, everything's great, fine. I like to give tips to people who need help, people who are struggling, people who are having a hard time sticking to this. One thing that you can do that makes this much, much easier and more convenient to stick to is to prepare massive quantities of food ahead of time, because that means you can cook a very large amount of food in a fairly short amount of time. And if you do this, you have tons and tons of food ready to go. That way, on days when you're stressed out or you're really busy or life throws you a curveball and maybe you didn't have time to cook dinner or whatever happens, you've got plenty ready to grab. You've got lots of meat, lots of vegetables. You can just grab it and eat it cold. You can cut it up. I'll get into the details in a minute. The point is, keto is no less convenient than going through the drive-through if you have food already prepared. And I'm pointing over there because my refrigerator is over there. So the way to make keto convenient is to set it up for yourself so that it's convenient. If you already have tons and tons of grilled or roasted chicken, lots and lots of steak pre-cooked, shrimp, a giant container of shrimp already boiled in the fridge, you come home on a really stressful day and you know how to make dinner, you reach into the fridge and you grab food and you put it in your mouth. It's that simple. You don't have to call out for takeout. You don't have to do whatever. Like it's already made. I think a lot of people have trouble sticking to keto because when we think of convenience, we think of something that we can just grab and eat. And typically that's going to be cereal, granola bars, crackers, bread, potato chips, whatever. It's not going to be something that's low in carbs. But you can make your low carb foods just as convenient as that shelf stable carby stuff by doing it in advance and doing a ton of it. Do not fart around by meal prepping 2 chicken breasts and like cooking your dinner for tomorrow. Please don't make me laugh. Like, consider this my virtual slap upside your face. Um, the way to do this is to cook, like I said, massive amounts of food. Cook an amount of food that you think is honestly ridiculous for you to have prepared ahead of time. You should be horrified by the amount of food you have prepared. And if you feel like it's ridiculous and you're a little bit horrified, that's perfect. That's the perfect amount of food to have prepared for the week. Food does not go bad anywhere near as quickly as we think it does in the age of modern refrigeration. So let me give you some examples and then we'll talk about maybe how to use this. But I just cannot hammer home that point enough. You think you're meal prepping by cooking like an extra piece of chicken to use on your salad tomorrow to take to work for lunch. If you're going to go through the bother of cooking anything, cook a lot. Whether you have a family of 4 or 5 or 6, or you're cooking for one. I cook for one most of the time, and I still cook a ton. And I love to cook, but sometimes I just don't have time, or every now and then I'm not in the mood. There's no reason you as a single person cooking for one can't put a 5-pound pork shoulder in your slow cooker, in your air fryer, whatever device you like to have. There's no, if you like, hard boiled eggs, soft boiled eggs, however you like your eggs done, it's the perfect grab and go keto snack to keep in your fridge. Don't boil 2 or 3 eggs at a time to have for today and maybe one extra for tomorrow. Boil 2 dozen and keep them in the fridge. They're not going to go bad. And I mean, they're just the perfect thing to grab at any time. And so, all right, I'm getting a little afield. One thing that I like to do is, you all know what this is. It's that handy dandy glass Pyrex baking dish. This is my small one. I had a much larger one. It broke. I don't know how you break Pyrex. I think that's like goes against the laws of physics. But anyway, get yourself one of these babies. Get the biggest one you can find that fits in your oven. Because if you're gonna, I very often just bake chicken breast, like a plain boneless, skinless chicken breast. If you've got a big one, fit 6 chicken breasts in it. Stick it in the oven, 350, 30 minutes, it's done. You don't have to babysit it. You don't have to do anything to it. Get yourself a bunch of these because you can stick them all in the oven at the same time depending on how big your oven is. You could bake pork chops the same way. You could bake seafood, salmon, cod, flounder, whatever kind of seafood you like. Load it up, stick it in the oven, and go do something else for a few minutes. The other big thing, get yourself one of these big cookie sheets or roasting pans. I like the one that has the raised edge, the lip on it. That way nothing kind of slides off. You can do anything on this. Do a whole, they call it sheet pan dinners, a whole sheet pan loaded with just meat and vegetables. Olive oil, salt and pepper, or whatever fat you like, whatever garlic, paprika, all kinds of seasonings. Roast at a high temperature, 425 for 30 minutes, whatever, or whatever that's Fahrenheit, whatever the equivalent is in Celsius, a relatively high temperature for my people outside the US. I use this thing all the time, and I line it with foil so that I don't even have to clean the pan. When the stuff is done, you can just get rid of the foil in the pan. You don't even have to wash the pan. And I even reuse that foil sometimes. If I just cook meat and vegetables on here and or just roasted, I roast Brussels sprouts on here all the time, cauliflower, again, a whole tray worth. And I mean, that'll only last me a couple days. I'm one person, but just do not mess around cooking small amounts of food. You're kidding yourself. I'm telling you, set yourself up for success. The more food you have prepped and ready to go on hand that you can just grab, the easier this is to do. Because in those moments when you're stressed out and you're pissed off and you don't feel like cooking and nothing's ready, You don't even have to take the 8 minutes to boil some pasta because your steak is already grilled because you grilled it 2 days ago. And you had the grill going. Don't just grill one steak, grill 8 or 10. You stick them in the fridge. You can have one the next day. Cut it up, put it in an omelet, have steak and eggs, make fajitas. If you grill 10 chicken breasts at a time, you can make fajita. It takes, cooking is so simple when the hardest part is already done. Very often, the protein is what takes the longest to cook. If you have 10 chicken breasts already grilled and done, well, then, if you're really hungry, you can just grab one, cut it into strips, and dip it in guacamole, dip it in ranch dressing. There's your meal, or there's your snack. Same thing with if you have a ton of vegetables, grilled, roasted, steamed, boiled, whatever, ahead of time, you just put that chicken breast on your plate, grab a spoonful of the vegetables, the meal is done. And what was I going to say? You can do that with anything, any kind of protein, pork chops, seafood. If you have an air fryer or a slow cooker or some other device like that you like, put those large cuts of meat, the pork shoulder, the pork tenderloin, the pork loin, the beef roast, that top round roast, the whatever. It's just, there's no reason not to. It doesn't take, usually it takes no longer, sometimes it might take a couple minutes longer, to cook a large amount of food than it does a small amount, right? Like I said, if you've got the grill on anyway, why not grill 4 or 5 pounds of steak? Don't grill one dumb little steak for your dinner. Cold steak is a delicious snack. Or learn to enjoy cold food. You don't always have to heat it up. So you've got a whole package, like a whole container of grilled steak in the fridge because you did it 2 days ago, ready to go. Grab one, cut it, dip it in blue cheese dressing. Oh, what an amazing dinner that is, with or without vegetables. If you want to eat vegetables, just massive, massive quantities. And if you are somebody that gets tired of leftovers, grow up. Grow up. You know what your dog eats? The same damn thing every single day. Unless they're lucky and maybe sometimes they get some table scraps or sometimes you mix up their food. Most of the time they get the same damn kibble. Do you ever see them complaining? No. The minute that food hits the bowl, they're running for it, just like it was the first time. So, I'm being a little bit harsh there. That's the beauty of cooking a ton and a ton of variety. Okay, you've got some chicken in there already grilled. Oh, but I've also got that salmon that I made. Oh, and I have the steak, and I've got the pork chops, and I've got the sausage. Cook a ton of different food. Again, food does not go bad anywhere near as quickly as we think it does. So like sausages, perfect keto snack to grab and go. Whether we're talking about little breakfast links or the big griller type, like dinner barbecue kind of sausages, don't cook a little thing. Cook like 5 or 6 packages all at once. You can either fry them in a frying pan, you can do sausages, you can roast them in the oven. Same thing with bacon. So many people bake. You bake bacon so that you don't have a ton of mess all over your stove, even if you have one of those splatter screens above the pan. Get yourself one of those racks, like a baking rack. You put the bacon on it, the fat drains down, and a whole package of bacon is done. Then make another one. Then make another 2. You got 4 packages of bacon in the fridge. Cold bacon is an awesome keto snack. In case you didn't know, there's a little pro tip for you. I often cook bacon in this, but I just use the foil. I put the bacon right down, and when it's done, I drain it on a towel, and I save the fat. I have 2 ramekins of bacon fat in the fridge to cook other stuff with. And when I was talking about boiling the eggs, some of you, I'm sure, have seen this type of device before, but this is so old. This one is like 13 years old. I don't think this is a Krups. They don't even make this model anymore. It's an egg cooker. It's just, it plugs in, and you can boil up to 7 eggs. Don't ask me why it's 7. Like, either make it a half dozen or make it big enough for a whole dozen. 7 eggs at a time. You put them in a little thing. It comes with instructions. It's perfect every time. Whether you like really dry, well done hard-boiled eggs, or you like them soft-boiled where the white is very much set and cooked, but the yolk is still a little bit soft. That's how I love my eggs. You can actually program this thing to do that. And they make other models now that I think do fit a whole dozen. They make some that are double decker, 2 layers, or just get yourself a big stock pot or your big soup pot and just boil your eggs that way if you have a good technique. Everybody swears by a different technique. My point is, you're boiling eggs anyway. You've got the pot full of what? Don't boil 2 eggs, boil 2 dozen. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, but I think this is also the beauty of doing keto in a way where you are not obsessed with macros and calories and how many grams of protein and how many grams of this and what about this, because when you are not trying to have your food fit into the math, when you're not trying to like plug numbers, then your perfectly great keto dinner is cold leftover steak cut up into strips, dip it in whatever you like. There's a lot of sugar-free barbecue sauce on the market now. And the leftover roasted Brussels sprouts, because you made a whole giant pan of them, or 3 whole giant pans of them 3 days ago. They're still good, you know, and because you're just not worried about the amounts, the calories, the grams of this, and that's how to keep this simple. That's how to do it without making yourself nuts. Keto without the crazy. You know, when you move away from feeling like this isn't going to work or something's wrong if you don't know exactly how much you're having of this or how much of this or blah blah blah. To me this is common sense, but I know it's not, because I've had to like tell people how to do this or just suggest that they do it. And if you don't have some of these cooking things, I mean, none of this is fancy stuff. This is regular run-of-the-mill stuff. You can find some of this at a dollar store. They sell some of this glass bakeware, or just go to your home goods store, your Bed Bath & Beyond, or whatever the equivalent, you know, houseware store is if you're outside the US. Invest a little bit of money in some cookware that you're going to have forever. I've had this stuff forever and I use it often. This stuff is like workhorses. Even easier if you get a large slow cooker, or crock pot is the brand name, but slow cooker, an air fryer, an instant pot, you know, those new pressure cookers now. If you live alone, don't be afraid to get a big one. That's what she said. I can't believe I just said that. Good thing my channel is marked not for kids, right? But get the large cooking vessels, because there's no reason you shouldn't cook a 4, 5, or 6 pound roast, and you can eat it for the whole week. Meat and vegetables, or meat and no vegetables if you want to go the carnivore route. Like, this could not be simpler, but you have to make it convenient for yourself. Again, like, I just know this is why people fall off the wagon, or this is why you reach for whatever's handy, because most of the time, particularly if you live in a household where you're not the only one who eats this way, if you've got a spouse or kids or housemates or whatever that eat higher carb diets and all their high carb food is there, it's only too easy for you to reach and grab that box of cereal, or to reach into the drawer and get a granola bar. But what if your very low carb food was every bit as convenient, because you took a whopping 2 hours 3 days before and cooked like 12 pounds of food, right? And remember I said with the oven, most ovens, some of you have those little small ovens, but if you've got like a regular size and it's got 2 racks, you can put 2 or 3 of those trays in, cook multiple batches at once. Then when those are done, stick 3 or 4 of those Pyrex dishes in, cook lots more. You probably also got at least 2 or 4 burners on your stove that you could be doing different things. Maybe you've got this separate egg cooker. Maybe you've got a slow cooker and or an air fryer and or an instant pot, a pressure cooker. You could have all of this going at once. Take a Sunday or whatever, if you don't work a Monday to Friday type job, whatever day of the week is good for you. It could even be a weekday after work some evening. We're talking 2 or 3 hours. Take one evening a week and you cook a massive quantity of food. You will thank yourself the next day, 2, 3, 4 days later. You will thank yourself because all this stuff is ready to go. And I think another secret is, like, this is the difference between this kind of food prep versus meal prep. If you're making meals, you're following recipes or you're cooking like, okay, I'm going to make the keto enchiladas and I'm going to make the, keto broccoli and cheese casserole. Okay, that's fine. Like, if you want to do that and make a huge amount of it, great. Don't stop doing that if you are doing that and you love it. But when you cook this kind of stuff, like when I said, oh, grill 10 chicken breasts, grill 10 steaks, roast 14 pork chops all at the same time, leave them unseasoned. Leave it all plain, or just salt and pepper, maybe basic, like chefs would kill me if I said leave them unseasoned. So maybe just some salt and pepper, because that way, over the next 3, 4, 5, 7 days, when you are grabbing it to make your meals throughout the week, you can do anything you want with it because it's not pre-flavored, pre-seasoned. If you want to just cut it up and eat it cold, dipped in ranch dressing or guacamole or sugar-free barbecue sauce, you can do that. If you want to cut up that chicken and steak or your shrimp and put them into a stir fry, you can do that, because then with the stir fry, at that point, you might add cumin or chili powder or whatever kind of other seasoning, cayenne pepper, whatever you like. If you want to do Italian or you want to make like a frittata or an omelet, at that point, when you're using the proteins you've already cooked, that's when you would add the basil and the oregano and the rosemary or whatever else you're going to add when you're putting it into the thing, or make a curry, like. But the point is to cook I should have called this protein prep. The point is to prep all the proteins ahead of time and leave them unseasoned, because then when they're plain, you have that base to work with that you can do anything with. Or, if you know that you love chili powder, you love cayenne, cumin, whatever, like that Mexican type or Tex-Mex type flavor, then grill 10 chicken breasts with that seasoning on them already. Do you, but my point is, go big or go home. That's also what she said. I mean, don't mess around with these stupid little quantities of food and then wonder why you can't stick to keto or why you keep going through the drive-through. Now, of course, that's a bullcrap excuse anyway, because as you go through the drive-through, oh, guess what they have? Burger patties. Guess what they have? Grilled chicken patties a la carte. Oh, diet soda, salads. So those last minute things are not really an excuse anyway. I'm just saying that, like, by cooking just mountains of food ahead of time, once a week, twice a week if you're feeling ambitious, once a week, pounds and pounds and pounds of food. I just think that makes this a lot easier to do. And I know I focused a lot here on protein. I did mention I do that whole tray of roasted Brussels sprouts or roasted cauliflower. You can do it with vegetables if you eat vegetables, like do a massive stir fry ahead of time, or but again, leave it plain, or leave whatever. You can. I shouldn't have gone down that route, because vegetables are kind of whatever. They do kind of require salt and pepper, especially if you're going to roast them or something. But even if you don't, then you still just add them to whatever recipe you're making or whatever dish you're making later on, and that's when you flavor them and season them. Common sense to me, not so common out there. I hope that's helpful. But just remember, keto without the crazy. This is so much simpler than so many of you make it out to be. And like, just keep that in mind. This food preparation strategy takes you out of the realm of worrying about, well, but I don't know how many grams of this and it doesn't fit my food plan because it has this, or what about that? If you are worried about that, download Dr. Westman's Page 4 diet. There's a link to it in the notes below the video. If you are tired of worrying about macros and your spreadsheets and your apps and your calories and your counters and weighing and measuring your food, check out that Page 4 diet. You probably would also want to get on the wait list for our Keto Made Simple Masterclass. I think we're going to run that again in April. So it's not open right now, but if you sign up for the wait list, you will get notified as soon as it's open again. And if you are confused or overwhelmed about keto, you will not be after taking that class. We've had 5 rounds so far, and it has exceeded our wildest expectations, frankly. And I'm going to stop talking now. Go cook, cook, cook. Lots of food. Be horrified at the amount of food you're cooking. And that's probably the right amount. I'll see you next time.